And we are live. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your special, super special Sunday edition of Jawin With Jack. I'm the Jack you're looking for. And joining me today is the one and only Jeffro Johnson, the progenitor of the Bro SR, the master. What's the right term I want to look for? He's definitely the Lord of the Dance. I think Michael Flatley can go away. And we are here to talk about his new Kickstarter, which is Winning Secrets, which is building upon the things that he has discovered, rediscovered, implemented, innovated. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Jeffro, welcome to the show. And what can you tell us about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad people are talking to me. I remember January of 2024 that no one would talk to me, and then in that year there were people who would that I thought, I should be on their shows. I should be talking to these people. These are my peers, and then I would never get the invite, and I was very sour about this. And then I would see people, and people that had, there's no nice way to say it, but they wrote a book about my developments and the stuff that was going on in my campaign, and they didn't mention my name anywhere in it. And then those people got invited to talk about my work on people's, or maybe they got invited to go to a con, and kind of represent this side. It was like, what? This is very.
That sounds a little sketchy, and no attribution. And does it sound to you like they were directly referencing things that happened in your campaign?
We're just going to give these people a chance to apologize. We can be magnanimous in victory. In retrospect, it's really funny, but you got to give people a little bit of slack, because no one anticipated that there would be more to the story than what we knew at that time. And I knew that. That's why I held off on putting a book out for as long as I did, because I knew there was more here. And
was that a sense of there were still things you were sorting out in your head? You needed to allow the to mature in your head, or you were.
There were glaring problems with what we were doing. We had opened up a style of play that no one had analyzed in depth for a span of 40 years. And then, and then you had I believe that the RPG hobby was infiltrated and taken over by a cult that decided to make it impossible for anyone to recover these things. And and my evidence for that is just look at the replies of anyone in the Bro SR on Twitter, and you see these crazed fanatics that just won't let people play the game in the way that they prefer to do it. But no, I thought there was serious stuff wrong, and I think we're going to get some more elaboration on this, because we're talking in the past 3-4 weeks, we have people coming out with ideas that I believe complete the picture. I don't want to get too ahead on the story, but you seem like a nice guy, so I'll give you just a preview of what's coming. First off, Brovenloft, it was just this huge event where we had several campaigns coming together for a convergence of excitement that drew everybody together for a titanic conflict. And when
I have seen the pixelated animation that got circulated on that, and that is truly a classic moment to be preserved forever.
Oh yeah, no, I wish that more people involved had written things up about what happened, because it was an extraordinary thing. I'm glad that the wargaming segments on Joy of Wargaming, detailing the battle in heaven that was going on concurrently with the role-playing event. I'm glad that's there, because that was I mean, I know we hear frequently that everyone has always played this way, but at the time I thought this was kind of novel. It was something that some of our old RPG supplements talked about people doing, but I'd never experienced it firsthand, and I never knew anybody that had. And it was cool. It was really cool. But no, I had a high level Magic user, and I could not wait because this style play was so new for us. I had never played it before. I'd run an event of that scale, or in the trend of that scale, the sort of the template that Brovenloft was being run off of. And I was curious, how does this work from a player's perspective? Because I didn't know. And I walked in there, and I had a high level wizard, Zanzel Melechtones, with a ton of magic items, and I had all my allies, and we had all our plans that we were working up. And this guy that was playing obnoxious Pope, like the Pope that like plays pool with people and stabs everyone in the back, right? Like
He's
I
really
come
just
into the game,
yeah.
I'm so excited to play, and this dude wished me out of the event. Like that was his first move, and like he put me in somebody's in the Red Frontier campaign, and so I'm over there, and I'm like, great, I can go play with these people now, and so I joined their standard weekly table session. And the referee was like, okay, yeah, this guy, this high level wizard, he's now in our campaign. You can talk to him now. You can do all this stuff. And I'm like, great. What are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? I'm not in that game. I can be in this other game. I can have fun over here. I'm a good sport. I'm a really good sport. And they all, in our type of games, the players have so much autonomy that they have to decide what they're going to do at the beginning of the session, and the referee doesn't know what they're going to do. And I didn't know what they were going to do. And they had like a 30-minute conversation of all the things that they could do, and they were like, "Hey, let's go to Brovenloft and let's take that super high-powered wizard with us." and they went, and I had to tell them, I'm like, okay, when you guys go to Brovenloft, I don't appear there with you because the magic of that game universe means that I can't be there. So
in a way, I got to really respect the sheer pettiness of such a move. It's like, no, you got to go. Wish that's expending some serious resources to make that happen.
Well, people are dangerous that understand how these games work, and you need to be careful with that. If you're in a game with them, you kind of have to play dirty. So it's okay. But later, when I ran my Traveler game, I did the same thing to somebody else. I had Sky Hernstrom in my Traveler campaign, and there was this thing where and sorry, now this has gone off too long. Like I wanted to describe a problem that was an open problem that has been solved, I think. And so like I'm telling these stories as problems. Like there should be something about this that should make you go, maybe we can do better. Because if you complain about it in the Bro SR, it's going to be like, well, if you were really elite, you would have like outsmarted that guy, or
right. No, you just weren't ready for the better move.
Yeah, right. And that kind of shuts down any reflection.
Well, there is room for that, and my personal experience so far, dipping my toes in there, has been one of the best things about what you guys are doing is the fact that you're taking these ideas, putting them into practice, and then having an honest discussion about what's working and what's not working and how you need to tweak things to make it even better. And that completely meshes with what you just said.
And that ties back into I'm not upset about it. Like when I see people plagiarizing from me, I mean, I look at that and I'll be like, wow, look at that, I'm really influential. That's how I take that. But the people that did that and that did not cite their sources, that did not footnote, I got this idea by reading this guy's blog or by watching this guy on YouTube, or the people who did that, they actually they cut themselves out of the continuing conversation. they presented these ideas as if they were accepted wisdom or settled science when they weren't. We had the most exciting thing about these discoveries is that there were open problems that had plagued us for a long time, and we were making progress on it. And then you remember people dismissing me entirely because they're like, oh, well, if you use the BroSR method, you're just going to burn out your referees. And it was like, well, yeah, there's an open problem here, and we're working on that. And then when we find something that solves that, they're like, oh, the BroSR, Jeffro just keeps moving the goalposts. Every year or two, he comes out with some new idea that he's recovered from the dawn of the hobby. That's the new solution. It's just like, well, yeah, this is what happens when you have an exciting field that's opened up new areas of exploration and new open problems. And the real activity is people competing with each other to decisively and persuasively and conclusively move the state of the art forward. And really, the plagiarists always present this as if it's all dead, as if there's no excitement, as if there's no adventure to be had here.
And I think you had made an interesting choice of word a moment ago by saying competing, because the PvP is an essential element to the kind of game environment that you're creating. It does have its own problems, from my experience, because I'm a vampire LARPer from way back. But it's having a clubhouse, the clubhouse mentality that's been promoted keeps it as a tighter knit group of friends who enjoy that honest competition with one another. And there's a degree of sportsmanship that begs of us that I think I see.
I think that guy, Mythic Mountain Folk Games. I think it might have been him that said this. I don't want to misattribute something, but the psychology of conventional role-playing games, like there's so many things that fly in the face of human nature that people do with these games. And I'm talking about, the session zero, the elaborate backstories, the elaborate character builds that everyone has all of this input at that stage of the game, because in a way, when the campaign starts, they're not going to have the ability to contribute to the developing narrative in a substantive way anymore. It gets that much of a restriction on the role that you play. And so the people that have grown up around the hobby, they have a culture that is predicated on suppressing human nature. And I feel like in our style of play that allows for competition, allows, you can cooperate with someone to go get something done, but your role is not so restricted that these other things are off the table. And that leads me to the thing I wanted to describe that we had about the competition. Like, how do you make the competition in these unchained, off the rails, wide open, underhanded, devious games? How do you make these games more fair? And there's an analogy here. This is so new. This is so new, and I'm talking it up because no one will talk about it except me and my friends, right? So I'm talking it up. Gosh, what was it? Okay, hold up. Let me think. This was what we were talking about just after the show with Daddy Warpig yesterday. And it was off the air, and it's a tragedy that was off the air because you could see the light bulb go off in Daddy Warpig when he finally understood what I was getting at. And then the analogy here is when you talk about one-to-one time with people, and you're like, okay, we've got this rule, and it has all these incredible second and third order effects. It solves problems we didn't know we had, and then you got all these people that are like, well, it's you're like acting like this is like I can make those same effects with my conventional techniques. I don't need this rule to. And then you got someone smarter, a little bit smarter than them, like James Strice, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess you could put your thumb on the scales and be the Dutch boy at the dike and plug all the holes in your game all the time and make things work through like brute force. You could do that. But if you had a rule that was like doing a lot of work for you and you never had to think about it, gosh, that's such a better way to go. And so in like manner, you can see in the Bro SR the dispute over which way we were going to go in order to continue the research or to continue the campaigns, or like what is the actual best way to do it. And in 2024, it was utter chaos. Dubs and I.
That was around the time I arrived on the scene. So that's about when I showed up. I think around the start of when you guys were leaning into the Bronstein.
Right. So we were talking about total nonstop Bronstein, and this just made everybody mad because if you ran elite level games and you were doing really cool stuff. And really innovative stuff. And you felt like you deserve some credit for that and some respect. And then you've got me and B-Dub saying, oh no, you can do better. You can improve. That just doesn't. He did this thing in the summer called the Elite PC Challenge, right? And he was looking at the players in the campaigns, and he was, as a referee, you're killing my campaign. Like you're doing things that we know are disrupting what this game was intended to be, what it ought to be, and what it could be. And
for context, this is the referee was causing the problem, or one of the players?
The players as a whole.
Players as a whole.
Just as an example of this, if everybody in the campaign, of all alignments, all get together and say, we're all going to cooperate. And we're going to figure out a way to mine the random encounter tables and our downtime to just make massive amounts of magic items ubiquitous in the campaign. And we're going to have characters giving these things out to everyone. There's no reason to adventure anymore. And there's no
like you played in my campaigns before.
Is this, have you seen this? Have you actually?
Yeah, I have seen this. For context, I started playing in 79 or so. I was like 5 or 6, and we can talk about that later. But I very much am what you describe in your work about. I read the 1-to-1 time rules as a kid in those hardboard books, and I kind of mostly understood them. But I was lucky if I could get 3 people together to play the game, let alone have a campaign where that was necessary, right? So it just never made sense to me, or was never seemed necessary. And I've been along with the conventional gaming tropes, I guess is the best term for it, up to those years. So it was really refreshing for me to discover the Bro SR through John Mollison and then through X, and getting exposure to those ideas of going back and revisiting and going, oh yeah, I remember reading these things and thinking that they sounded cool, but I was never going to get a chance to use them. When am I ever going to, at the time I had never played with a group larger than 4 or 5.
Wow. Okay. All right. So B-Dubs was giving out the Elite PC Challenge in part because we had a shift in our understanding of what the game was intended to be. And we saw the D&D continuing campaign as a Bronstein. And when you see that, it's like, okay, if it's a Bronstein, then that changes how you understand what your role is. And it changes your understanding of what type of game you're even playing.
Can you explicate that for me a little bit? Be a little bit more explicit in describing what is the Bronstein? What are the qualities that you're looking to bring into the campaign specifically?
Yes. Well, it's all in the book. It's all detailed in the book. But I will say here,
are you telling me to read the manual?
Yeah.
I'm triggered. Oh,
RTFM. We do have a new manual. We do have.
I can hear Crafty Matt now.
But no, the Bronstein is simply put, like if you look in OD&D, I'm going to put this entirely in OD&D terms. An individual player is going to be fighting monsters, and he will have not just henchmen and hirelings in the sense that we're and that the old school is used to and familiar with. But he's going to end up having monsters that are like, okay, we surrender, man, and we're going to work for you. You're the boss now. And you can see this on the cover of Winning Secrets, that the wizard from the expert set has the dragon from the basic set as one of his like minions, and then he has a bunch of gnolls with him that like will go do whatever he says. He's top dog, right?
And a pug man, yeah,
exactly. A player character in the OD&D game, like this is crazy. The reaction rules that we know of today and use for everything, use them in every encounter. They were specifically presented for the purposes of determining whether a monster joined your like entourage or not. Like that's what reaction rolls are for. And so like you talk about playing these games where you like, oh, well, I only have like 2 or 3 friends over at my house. What are we going to do? How can we have a game? And a lot of people played where, oh, well, we'll just play 3 characters each, or you have like the Dungeon Crawl Classics thing where you come in, oh, you're going to play 4 level 0 guys, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people did that, but OD&D is saying something different. It's saying that essentially, in my mind, that even before you get to name level where you have a stronghold, you are going to be accruing so many resources and manpower and monster power that you're going to be a faction in your own right in the campaign world, operating more or less independently.
Which is paid lip service in most later editions, that as you go up in level, you'll start to affect the world, right? But there's no systems or mechanisms with which to make that happen. It's all just DM fiat.
Right.
And what we're seeing with what comes out of the first edition books is there's a setting buried in there. There's an opinionated setting that emerges from those tables. Those mechanisms. Like
you're in OD&D, just to continue on with this, the wilderness is not a blank slate, right? When you set up your stronghold out there, you don't immediately switch over to farming the wilderness random encounter tables in your downtime actions. That's not the game. There's strongholds out there. In OD&D, the placement of the NPC strongholds are predicated on the outdoor survival map. And in AD&D, 1 in 20 encounters in the wilderness, not in the patrolled areas, 1 in 20 encounters in the wilderness are fortresses that some may be abandoned, but some may have powerful factions stationed in them. So that the campaign map, it's not a blank slate where the players go carve it out themselves in the points of light tradition of where like they're the only thing active in the world. And it's also not an elaborate Forgotten Realms style page upon page upon page of lore and background either. It's a game environment where that will generate conflict for you to play out with your friends. And all of this could be encapsulated under things that open up if you understand the game as a Braunstein, and things that will not happen if a culture has moved into your hobby and then started suppressing anything that derives from Braunstein play.
Well, the Bro SR is sort of like the punk rockers of the indie TTRPG circuit. It's like, the really underground bands, the real innovators, they're the ones who make something big, whether it's punk or grunge or even rock back in the early days. They're not the ones who get the credit, unfortunately. Somebody else gets, molded into something by a major label that steals that sound. And, for whatever it's worth, I recognize you as the spawning genius of it.
I wish the people that were stealing from us were better at D&D than they are. I don't think they're very good at it. And again, their inability to perceive that there is open problems here on the table, that if somebody figures it out, that everybody is going to benefit from it. Their inability to see that. I mean, seriously, I'm not going to embarrass the guy specifically, but there's like a guy last year who was looking at the Bro SR, and he was explaining this to someone that was asking what it was, and he basically said, "Look, the Bro SR has, through their Braunstein play, achieved a mechanism that they can leverage to create content and conflict and scenarios of all types. They don't need a setting book. They don't need an adventure module. They don't need any supplements. Everything that they need was already designed in the 1970s, right? Like they could play the worst rule set, and to them it's complete. To them it's a turnkey solution, and they don't need anything else. And so he was ragging on us because it's like he said, there's no way this is going to get off the ground. There's no way this is going to get traction because they don't need any product. And the only way you can perpetuate a new idea in his mind is by this endless train of products. And so because of that, he's like, well, no, they're irrelevant because we can't make money off of this. And it's like, well, what if we made a hobby out of this? What if D&D became a hobby again?
What do you mean by that? What if we turn this into a hobby again? I want you to explain that to me in detail.
Oh, well, people aren't playing the games and they're not having fun. I would liken it to I know you have writer in your my
YouTube
name, so I this won't be too off topic for you, I hope. But let me tell you about the independent writer set of the last decade. At the tail end of it, what I observed is they never got an audience. Like they spent all of their time online talking shop with other writers, and it mystified me. I mean, I was like, gosh, like you guys are like, and if I was writing a blog, I would like talk over everybody else. I would imagine that like, well, I'm a genius and I have something that's worth saying, and I'm going to pitch what I say over the heads of any critics.
You don't give off those vibes at all,
right? I'm gonna imagine that there's someone out there that like right now really wants to hear what I have to say, and I'm just gonna cut the chase. I'm not gonna open with like, well, I was riding the bus this morning and this guy bumped into me and it occurred to me. I'm not gonna start there. I'm just gonna like come out and just say, this is what I'm thinking. This is my opinion, and I'm not gonna conclude with your mileage may vary, and I'm not gonna conclude my RPG thoughts on, well, if you have a different way of doing this at your table, don't let me tell you how to do it. I'm gonna be like a normal human being. And the writers, like, I don't feel like they ever did that. It's like they were so hung up on talking shop with other writers. I just don't feel like they ever got around to coming up with something that they thought was worth conveying to someone out in the world somewhere.
Well,
I may be hard on them, but that's my feeling.
I have to admit, yeah, I had that. That's because I sweated out a book around the time I created the YouTube channel and stuff like that, and it just failed utterly on release because I had no social media presence. Right? So it's like I sweated out a book at the prompting of a friend of mine and put it out there, but it's kind of just languishing. And it was around that time where a lot of indie authors kind of fell off the mat. A lot of people complained that the market kind of dropped out from under them. But even more, I noticed kind of a similar phenomenon, that it's great that the barrier to entry was removed. So, and the great part is now anybody gets to publish their book. And the terrible part of that is anybody gets to publish their book. Right. Yeah. And so after I wrote my book, published it, and then started, mixing in with the indie author community for a little bit. And I said, I don't want to be associated with people. I haven't read a single indie author book I like, except for the guy who offered me an opportunity to write for his world.
No, it breaks my heart because I see guys that I think are better than me. I think they're more literate than me. I think they are more creative than me. I think they know how to work with a world-class editor better than I can.
There must be detractors of yours having heart attacks right now to hear you say something like that.
No, but like I see these guys and like they struggle to pull any money on Kickstarters that they do, and I don't know how many sales they make on Amazon and stuff like that. But like, no, there's some people like when you have the Kickstarter, everybody knows what your pull is, right? Like everybody knows, and it blows my, like I was like last year I was looking and I was like, why would I write my book on this Bro SR stuff when people that I know are better than me are just struggling, and like and then like look at this, it's like the knucklehead who thinks he's a genius and who thinks he has something that people want to hear. That Kickstarter is not doing that. There's plenty of authors, plenty of aspiring authors that wish they had this much pull. And it's as much a surprise to me as anyone. It's certainly a surprise to my enemies.
Really? And tell me a little bit about that, because you have created a community around yourself. You have engendered loyalty and amongst these guys, and which is the seat of the clubhouse. Why do you think that is? And why do you think there are other people who are lacking that? Is it because you're contentious and aggressive? So there's always controversy around you?
No.
Is it the value of the ideas themselves? What is it in your estimation?
I think you hit the nail on the head right there with the last one, because I'm abrasive, I'm unlikable, I'm arrogant, but I told somebody the other day that like the most effective thing I ever did was to just not do anything for the span of 1 year, because in that time, because it's not me that's persuasive. I'm the least persuasive person that someone on Twitter one time said about me that I have a way of stating things in such a way that even people that agree with me would have to disagree with me. Right. Like it's extreme, and there's people that like ran into stuff that were phrased that way. Like a classic one was, only Christians can play D&D correctly. That's like I think I coined that. There's debate over who did it now, but like it doesn't matter.
I heard it from you first, like which I was going to ask you about, but that's
okay. Yeah, stuff like that just really ticks people off, right? And
how dare you? How dare you?
And like, don't read anything after 1980. Like that was my line for like 6 or 8 years, and every indie author who comes in sees that, and they're like, "Oh, my poor heart," they can't you're killing me. So no, people hate my guts. They really hate my guts. And in that year where I did nothing, and I feel like, unbeknownst to anybody, the ideas were persuading people on their own. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to shill to cause the adoption of these ideas to spread. I didn't have to bang the drum to get people to look at my work and say, "Gosh, I wonder if there's something we can do to make this a little bit better." That's happening without me.
I don't know if you happened to peek in during that year or anything, but it was pretty much the same arguments you were used to being cycled over and over again. I mean, your participation was not necessary. I think you're correct in your estimation. It was better to just hands off for a year and let things work out on their own.
No, but it was boring. It was a boring year. Nobody did anything ambitious but the past year. Nobody wrote any top flight essays that changed the way you think about D&D. We're about to do it again. We're about to do it again. And this is cycling back. I can come full circle now. The ideas are developing, and I'm, in 2024, B-Dubs and myself, we were on the bleeding edge of the hobby. We were doing new ideas. We were thinking of challenges that even we had never dared to try to do. The total nonstop Bronstein, which, if you want to know more about it, the ultimate source to go on that really is his Umbros PDF. It's free. He made it because he loves you, and you can go have a better game for nothing. He's not going to charge you a penny. But everybody, obviously there's a lot of people outside of the Bro SR that have made their personality. They have built their entire personality around nagging us every day. Any of our people on any medium where they can find them, they are in the reply. I wonder if these are AIs that were programmed by a 3-letter agency to harass us, to keep us from discovering things that are known at other agencies that are useful for the purposes of wargaming out complex social situations. I wonder if that's the case. I'm not sure if these people are real. I will have to see evidence that these people nagging us all the time in our replies.
Are those black helicopters I see?
Yes, they're coming.
Yes. I think I'm on the same wavelength as you. It feels malicious and intentional, even if it's not. It feels that way.
Yeah, and then when you try to talk to them on live on the air, and these people just kind of like they just, all they could do is scream, or they walk away, or they.
I didn't know he was going to be here. I'm out.
So no, yeah,
that is not at all a reference to any recent happenings.
No.
You're crazy for thinking it.
I'm trying to be magnanimous. I'm trying to be magnanimous in victory, but I still have shortcomings. But no, let me get to the state of the art moving forward. If you look at what B-Dubs and I were on about, like with his Elite PC challenge, what nobody wanted to do, he didn't get any support from that, and he was disappointed because we were telling people in the Bro SR, the way you're playing as a PC is not good for the campaign, and it's not working, and that it's a sign that our framework was missing another axiom. I think that's what that was. Our detractors would look at it and say, oh, this is evidence that what you're saying doesn't work at all. Ha ha ha! You're bad too, and you're a bad person too. And then people in the Bro SR was like, we think we're great. We don't think we need to improve, and it was bitter. It was bitter. They did not support. So when Broser came out, nobody celebrated it. Like when that module came out, everybody in the Bro SR was like, okay, well, Jeff and B-Dubs, if you think we could be better, we're just going to fold our arms, we're going to pout, and we're going to starve your project of oxygen. And that's okay. That's okay. Because the people that were going to move the ball down the field were people that we didn't know existed yet. We didn't even know they could exist, and we didn't know they were coming, like Aragorn with the pirate ships, right? And then in the last moment they pull off the black, and it's the white tree. Oh my gosh, it's Aragorn, and they're all here to kick butt. The totally surprise thing, because it's amazing. Like the story of the Bro SR, it is a fantasy story, right? And the interactions that we have with our enemies, they are Bronsteins. They are legitimately Bronsteins, and the tricks we play on them, they're totally Bronstein tactics. So literature and gaming is converging in the development of this de facto science of RPGs is what we're doing here. So the idea, you could see that B-Dubs and myself, we came to a different understanding of what D&D was. And then immediately we set about to restricting player autonomy in order to get the results that we thought would be better. And now that's an interesting, this is like George Lucas, where he's like history rhymes. This is like when you have static in an RPG design and you want to fix it, right? The first thing you do is well, I'm going to restrict the player autonomy so that the game works like it's supposed to, right? And we know that that's bad. Like people that don't use one-to-one time, you can see that where they do that and when they do that and why they do it, and it stinks. Even if they don't understand that it stinks, it stinks. And then here we were doing that again at this other level, and I said earlier how James Streisand pointed out, if you got a rule that does all this stuff for you somehow, that's great. So an example of the problem, and this was, and I'm sorry, I'm going long, but this is hard to describe, and I want you to understand it.
Okay.
And this is new. Like we're debuting this thesis on your show, so bear with me.
Okay. You heard it, people. We're getting history here.
We were playing this game where the sword Stormbringer got dug up in the game. A Merilith demon posed as the sorceress, seduced Fluid the druid, got the location of Stormbringer from him, and then went to retrieve it. And she amassed this army and was coming to Trilopulus to take over the campaign map with this awesome army of cavemen and dinosaurs, and it was going to be like the Legion of Evil was going to form, and then finally Macho Mandoff would have a rival that was worthy of his medal, and it was going to be great. And so what happens? She gets like I think it was Daddy Warpig and somebody else escaped from the demon's clutches at the cavemen camp and went to warn Macho Mandoff. And so they stole a horse and were riding off. And we figured out the timing of this activity. Like, okay, this would take you this long to get a message to Macho Mandoff, and it would take the sorceress this so much time to get to Trilopulus. And before she could get there, the race was won by Daddy Warpig. Macho Mandoff is warned, and then the players convened on the next week, and we're like, okay, we're going to make a party to go fight the demon woman with Stormbringer, and so he appears at this scene. He appears at this scene, and he's like, oh, by the way, I have a psi force. I have I have a special forces group of psionically powered characters that I got from basically mining the wilderness and tables and so forth in one-to-one time solitaire domain management according to the DMG. Every rule of the DMG about domain development that you could find in there, and it's a monster of a game. He was doing it all this time, and like, okay, and then I have a psi core. And as a referee, I didn't know about this, and I was like, oh, right. And so like he destroys the sorceress's like, the demon woman, like wouldn't like no, there was no contest, and it was like, but in that moment, it was like, as a referee, you're like, gosh, it kind of would have been nice if I had known about this in advance, but there's another layer to it. If you're talking Bronstein play, it would have been nice if everybody else in the game had known that this was in development over a span of 8 or 12 months. That would have been really, even just a hint, right? Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was complaining about, I was like, man, nobody can challenge Macho Mandoff for supremacy of the game. And what Fluid the Druid told me, who was refereeing, was like, well, go play the game that he's playing. And I was like, well, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to mine the wilderness tables. I don't want to take over a giant swath of the campaign map and then start finding all these magic items. I don't want to do what he's doing. I don't want to do that. And he's like, well, if you cared about beating Macho Mandoff, then you would do that or somebody else would. And I was like, no, this isn't the answer. This isn't the answer. I mean, I know that you refereed awesome things into an existence that have never been done before, but there's something off here, and I can't publish a book until this problem is solved. Like that was my feeling at the time. And so I went off and said, okay, D&D is a Bronstein, and if we understand Bronsteins better, then we'll understand how to adjudicate a D&D campaign better, because the D&D campaign is just a very large and Baroque Bronstein, extremely large. So we came out with Brozer, and everyone was mad at me and B-Dubs for saying that we could do it better, that the BroSR could be improved. There was a split in the BroSR. And then you had these people saying, oh, well, chainmail is the key to everything. And it was like, oh, guys, give me a break. Like, do you even have any idea what we're working on? Do you have any idea what problem we're actually trying to solve, and why what you're doing is just a complete distraction? Like, you're stealing oxygen from us, like solving the greatest open problem in gaming history. I mean, it really is. So
Mhm.
here's the deal. And I need other people to corroborate this story and elaborate on it. But we had people that were running lots and lots and lots of session Bronsteins, so much so that people were like, oh, look, the Bro SRs, like, they're just playing murder mystery games now. They're playing like werewolf with their friends. They're not even doing RPGs anymore. It's like, you have no idea what we're doing. You have no idea what we're working on.
Mhm.
You like, it's like this. We're. I mean, I can't even explain it to you because you'll only talk to people that plagiarize me. I would be glad to explain it to you, but like, give me a break. Doomstone Crom, Doomstone Crom
Okay.
runs a Bronstein. You know him. He was doing very cool stuff. I mean, he did multiple cool things. I think he by himself changed the conversation multiple times, enough so that like it's like, wow, this guy. I mean, if you could change the conversation around RPGs by running games
Mhm.
that are influential and ambitious, I'm sorry, that is cool.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
cool.
Well, and it shows that those are the second order effects of exactly what you're talking about. Is if you run a great game, people tend to want to talk about it, and that generates interest in how did you pull that off? What did you do? What did it
Like,
take? How long did it? Well,
exactly.
and that's exactly the methodology that you're exploring and putting out with these
And then
books.
the fact that all of these YouTube channels about D&D and even about the Bro SR never do this. Okay, explain that. Explain that. Right. There we go. Thank you, Dunder Moose. Yes, Goss was it. Goss was the seed of the idea. And when he ran Goss, it's like, oh, well, like, I've run Session Bronsteins and I can immediately see, like, man, this would fix my Session Bronsteins. I can tell. And here, then the interesting thing about this idea, I did not think in that moment, gosh, this would fix problems that we had in Trollopolis, things that bothered me. I didn't think that. I didn't know that. Somebody else had to go figure that out. And he
Mm.
did it by running a 5e campaign where everyone had a 20th level wizard, and it ran upwards of 50 characters, 50 players over the span of a year. Um, he, correct again, Dunder. The scene system. This is cool. This is cool. Now think about me getting blindsided by the Psy-Core that Macho Mandoff brought to the campaign. We were running the
Yes.
coolest adventure that we had ever. We had a really great adventure emerge from just all the random stuff that was lying around our campaign that the players had done. I'd spent years developing through play. And then we had this extraordinary session happen out of it. And it had mass battles in it. It had intrigue. It had stuff going on downtime. It had high level wizards that are tagging along and that revealed themselves at the exact moment that the sorceress was coming out of Mount Glovermore with the information on where Stormbringer would be. Right, like, so it was magical. It was magical. So I'm not saying, when I say that we could make it better, I'm not saying that what we had was bad, but there was room for improvement. And if we had been running scene, and this is the thing, I wish that we had this on a video of Daddy Warpig reacting to this organically. It was like, yeah, with that whole thing where Macho Mandoff spent 8 months developing a Psy-Core. There should have been rumors about that everyone in the game knew about.
Rumors, right? And again, it's a poor comparison, but even in literature, in a book, there would be teasers and foreshadowing to let you know that that's coming down the pipeline, that,
Exactly.
the hero's going to hit that eventually.
And here's the genius of scene is not only are all of those rumors about everything that's happening in the campaign entering in the a news feed of rumors that will give people an idea that things are happening, and they can go investigate these things and find more if they are intrigued by this. But it's putting the burden on the players to describe what is happening in terms of the game and in terms of the setting.
Mhm.
And because if the referee was a bottleneck on all this, he's going to abandon the job eventually, and then eventually, if he doesn't abandon the job, he is going to burn out from trying to keep all this and keep a hold of it. So this is an area where
Absolutely.
the referee was not ever going to do this justice, and it's better if we had a rule or a system that offloaded that on the players. And when the players do this, everything that's happening in the campaign now is now exposed to other players to interact with, to intervene, and to produce conflict and adventure. And
Yes.
I'm sure you recall there's this famous essay. I would like to think it's famous, where B-Dubs and I were talking about how convergence is what you should be chasing when you run a campaign. If you see it, lean into it. And then B-Dubs and I were saying, well, diffusion is bad. And there was a faction in the Bro SR that's like, no, diffusion is good because that's going to build some things out that will later get, when the convergence does happen, it's going to be better.
Where did you fall in that final weighing out of the two?
I was like, diffusion is bad. That was my position.
Okay.
I was like, no, this is bad. And an example of diffusion being bad, Doranol was playing a dwarf faction in Trilopulus, individually solitaire, right? And you still see people defending solitaire play in campaigns as if it's a good thing. And I think they're crazy. I think they need to go play with serious DM for a few months and then rethink their position on this, because solitaire play, if it's not done by John Mollison over at Joy of Wargaming, solitaire play is stupid.
I take great offense to that, but I'll let it slide this one.
Okay. But Doranol had this dwarf faction. He was running solitaire, and it was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then, like, as a PC, I knew this was going on as a referee. Mm-hmm. And I knew that the players were never going to go there because they had no information on this. There was no system to manage rumors for the campaign as a whole. So nobody knew about it. So in that campaign, I was like, guys, is there any way that we can go over to where Dornell's playing? Because I think something's cool is there, right? So, like, that's completely out of character. It's completely arbitrary. Our practices were failing us. Our assumptions about D&D campaigns were failing us. Under Serious DM's scene system, everything that might fall under the category of what we used to call diffusion is now opened up to an invitation for other people to turn it into convergence. And the lag time on how soon it becomes convergence is much quicker. And so this is such a big discovery. It's like, this happened with me because, like, I see RPGs now that will have a paragraph on one-to-one time in it now. And it's people that told me years ago, oh, this isn't correct, right? Or this won't work, or it's not a rule, or
I never played that way. We always played that way. We gave it up for a reason.
We're at the point now where RPG designers are just like, I'm not going to apologize to Jeffro, but I'm going to quietly put this paragraph about one-to-one time in the referee section because we know that it works, right? We know that it works. And so when I do things like that, like, I think that's going to happen with D&D as a Bronstein. I think that's going to happen. When you do something that changes the way people have to write RPGs going forward. And the great thing about this is why I love the OSR. They made so many retro clones that excluded the things that I think are important, that the fact that I am the reason that these things are here now, no one that's sane can argue that, right? But, like, when someone does that to me, I don't pout about it. When someone scoops me, when someone does something awesome that I never thought of, I don't turn into a sourpuss. I don't get angry about it.
So what you're saying is you're happy someone saw a gap and built on your idea. You innovated
absolutely. We have to. everybody who ever ran a Bro SR campaign wrote a document sort of like my How to Win at D&D essay, where they're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. Here are the, this is what 1-to-1 time is. This is what bronze team play is. This is how scaling works with the miniatures figures. And you have to read Appendix N. You have to do this. Like they'll for years, people that started a Bro SR camp, they all had to explain this stuff. And they wrote they wrote like a manifesto before they started their campaigns and said, this is the way we're going to do it. And so what you're going to see that serious DM is important to the hobby, because everyone that writes a document like that going forward is going to include something like the scene system in it, because it does so much heavy lifting in making the campaign better and in making the campaign run without the referee having to baby everything along, or to produce things that aren't fair, to produce things that don't work, or to produce things that are running the campaign down and drawing energy away or burning the referees out. It's such a great idea that addresses so many things that were just not quite working with the Bro SR. I'm delighted. I'm delighted. Like this is like, oh, I want to play games again. I want to run another. I want to see how this. I want to play with this. This is like having a new toy, right? Every RPG you have now has something about it that you have never experienced, you've never explored, and because he proved it with a year of play. And then Rule of Thule documented this stuff so that we can benefit. We can say, oh, I see how that works. It's not just an idea. It's not just theory, right? It's like he's showing you good examples and bad examples of how this was implemented and how it developed over time.
And that's part of the discussion, the debate, that the discourse that happens behind the scenes and in public, that there is honest discussion about what's working about it, what's good, and what's failing about it. That's the thing, that's how the continuous improvements happen. That's how the innovation keeps being pushed.
And you can
on that.
Oh, well, yeah. And everyone who we have people in a prisoner's dilemma scenario where it's like, oh, I could betray everybody in the Bro SR by taking these developments and pretending like they came to me in a dream. Like those people, like, you don't see new ideas coming from them, right? you don't see people, you don't see them contributing to the effort to find new ideas that make all this better. When they betray everyone in their prisoner dilemma game and go off on their own to be like, oh, I did this myself, or no, like where the Bro SR's like, I made this, and they're like, they take it and they're like, I made this, right? That meme, that classic meme. When they do this, they are creating a false impression that there's nothing left to discover in the hobby, right? Like, and that kills innovation. You're talking about a parasitic culture that presents these ideas in such a way as because like when they don't cite me, what they do on these, whether they're talking about a retro clone or a book of theory or a book of RPG history, when they don't talk about me, what happens is that it's the, we have always played that way, we have always known this, right? And it's like, this hobby would be way more interesting to way more people if there were treasures here to unearth, like actual treasures to unearth that likes to make everybody have better experiences with this.
Over the decades, it appears to me that there's been more and more inclination towards mass appeal with each game and each edition, and it's led to a lowering of the common standards, lower the bar, make it easier for people to get in. And the things we left by the wayside, starting right with second edition, all the one-to-one time and the factions and the great fleshed out tables, the various rules about the setting itself and how the world works and titles, all of the really good stuff that's in the DMG just did not make it to second edition. And that set the standard going forward. It was like, we want AD&D to be more like basic or or the box set.
No, what's TSR did that with Appendix N with second edition D&D. Because when you go in there, it talks about how like, oh, well, when you play a fighter, you might want to be like King Arthur or Robin Hood. You might, when you play a thief, you might want to be like, I don't know. They were going for historical figures and stuff. Like they cut Appendix N out of it. Like if you have
myth and folklore, which I like to a degree, but there's something missing about those literary inspirations.
No, if you have, they had stuff for the magic user and the thief that we know was lifted directly from Jack Vance, right? And then they and the entries on the the figures you might base this character, like they cut that out. Okay, that is a parasitic move, right? I mean, some people will be like, oh, well, I've checked the law, and there's no law that says that I have to thank Jack Vance when I play AD&D or make a knockoff of the AD&D game rules, right? And okay, well, maybe there is, but like you're hurting, that's not cool. I mean, do you know how many people I've introduced Jack Vance to, and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that fiction could be this entertaining. This is so great. It explains so much about D&D. Like this is why there are lost secrets for me to unearth in the first place. Is because people
everybody said, no, we don't want that stuff. Well, and my personal experience level, again, Appendix N books were not popular or readily available at my local library. I was, small town kid in New Jersey. And so it's not that I wouldn't have read Howard and other or Vance when I was a kid. Those just were not in my library. I was stuck reading, at best Tolkien, but I spent most of my life reading epic fantasy, all the Tolkien wannabes, and going, I wish this was more like D&D.
Yeah, no, in the 80s, if you were just some kid in a small town and you were dependent on the local library to get your fantasy, you were more likely to run into complete creepazoids, such as Pierce Anthony, right? And his Xanth series. It's kind of there's something off about that, right? And you were, if you were interested in science fiction, you would be handed off to Robert Heinlein, right, who was a creepazoid, right, or Isaac Asimov, who was a creepazoid, and then you go back and you look at like Traveler, and Metamorphosis Alpha, and Gamma World. The literary antecedents for those books is not Clark, Heinlein, and Asimov. Right. The literary antecedents for those books are better and more appropriate for gaming than anything that those three guys wrote. It's it's Piper, it's Tubb, it's Paul Anderson, it's Jack Vance. It's all those guys. So yes, when you cut out the influences, when you lie about what the influences are in these things, when you cover that up, you're not just hurting people's games, you're cutting out a very significant piece of culture. And so I've done this on 2 counts, and you can see that everyone with an RPG blog failed. Everyone that wrote magazine articles failed. Everyone that was like, oh, I'm in the old school Renaissance. I'm here to bring stuff back that would otherwise have been lost and adapt it to the new day. I'm not just bringing old stuff back. I'm also innovating. Let me remind you that I'm innovating. I'm creative. I'm a very creative person. I'm not just copying the old D&D rules. These people failed. Like, underneath D&D was actual bona fide, legitimate culture. There was a literary culture behind it, and there was a game playing culture, a clubhouse style game playing culture. Both of these together are really important. They're really fun. They completely change the way you experience these games. And everyone else who and now I wouldn't point this out, but these people are very ugly and they're very snide and they're very persistent in trying to diminish my contributions to the game. They did not merely fail to bring these things to light. They did their darndest to suppress these things coming back, which ties back into how no one would talk to me in January 2024. But now everybody's like, "Oh, we've always been best friends, Jeffro."
Really?
Yeah.
Wait. Now, speaking of going back to early days, we've been talking for an hour now, and I have to take it back to first principles, which is, how did you get started in RPGs in the first place? Like, when was that? How old were you? What was the game? What was it like?
Oh, it was third grade, and I was at the YMCA, there was this guy with polyhedral dice and a DM screen, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And so there was this one other kid. He invites us to play, and he gave us pre-gen characters on that goldenrod character sheet
Classic.
that you had. I think you might. What did you buy them from the Armory? Who produced those? I don't know who produced
I
them.
don't recall anymore. It's been
But
so long.
and I had no idea what was going on, and so he takes us on this adventure, and so I'm looking at this. Some adult had made this character. I'm just some dumb kid. I'm third grade,
Right? Yeah.
and we go in and we come to this room, and the kid playing with me was a thief, right? I think.
Mhm.
And so the DM describes this like giant green devil face on the wall, and it has a mouth that's open, and inside the mouth is all blackness. Right? And so
I think I know where this story is going, Jeffro.
the kid playing with me, who's also just some dumb kid, he's like, I crawl into the mouth. I crawl into the mouth. And in that moment, like, the dungeon master was just completely exasperated because that was somebody's character that they had spent a long time playing, and he had loaned it out. And this guy wasn't like, oh, he wasn't going to retcon this. Like, this guy was like, oh no, that character's dead now. Like,
That kind of stuff was sacrosanct back in the day, man. For the grognards, and now once the character's dead, he's gone.
Yeah, right. And so yes, there was like a sphere of annihilation was what was in the mouth of the green devil face, and that killed the game. Right. That was like my first glimpse of this. And so immediately after that, I didn't have any money because I couldn't mow lawns yet, and so I went back to school and I made up little mazes that people could go through. It was a 2-player version of what I thought D&D was that I made up on the spot. And so you would go through the maze and try to find the treasure and try not to run into monsters. That was just the game. There was no combat system. It was just a maze, and you would describe the maze to your friends and they would play it. And this became like a sensation. This was like, this was like Jeffro's space gaming blog, but in real life, right? Like, I'm having the same problem. Let me tell you about this awesome thing I found from the depths of time. But all the kids, then one of the kids would make mazes that were patterned after the V television series. I don't know if you remember the reptiles that are eating humanity, right?
Oh yes.
But no, it was a sensation. It was really cool. But yeah, that was my start with role-playing games.
That's amazing. So you had one experience in a inappropriately chosen module. I really think that was a DM skill issue to be running 2 brand new 10-year-olds through the Tomb of Horrors. Call me crazy. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe I'm not being hard enough on people.
Well, it's better than getting killed by the kobolds in B2. I mean, that would have been we would have never played again if that had happened.
Well, hey, truthfully, my first night was, we rolled up characters and we went wandering around outside the keep, and we found the puma, and the puma wiped us out. And then the next night we rolled up a new set of characters and we went out again. And that night we got the puma, but the hermit came out and then wiped us out.
Nice.
And then, but on the third night we got the puma and the hermit. Been hooked ever since.
Awesome. That's good.
Now, So you had some time there before you ever acquired any books, and you were already like designing, making your own games. You grokked the creative outlet that it was from the beginning. How did you transition into actual gaming? Did you acquire books at some point, or
No, well,
bank
I
heist,
did
something like that?
not too long after I did get a copy of Mold Bay Basic. And so that would have been my first set. But no, my first, like the first three game products I bought were Car Wars, the plastic black pocket book box edition. Um,
Nice.
and then I was at a little game store that had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, the RPG, and now and no one can understand how that at the time was nothing like anything anybody thinks of it as now. It was cool.
Right, and again, that game, what came before the TV show was released, by a
Right.
few
No,
years, so it was
was
completely based off the comics and nothing to do with the TV show.
no, it was gritty and it was dark
It was
and
awesome.
it had like a Frank Miller vibe, right? And it was weird, like the game was weird, and I didn't know what that was, but so I had Mold Bay Basic, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Car Wars. And I'm honestly, I think if you look at my game blog, there's like a series of early posts there called Gaming Disasters. Um, I didn't, as a kid, I was not that guy that got D&D. I was not the guy that could. My friends would run role playing games from time to time, and I was like, "What you're doing?" This is the early Jeffro, right? It was already extant at the time, which was and losing friends and alienating people to boot.
It goes all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. But like they would run something like third edition Gamma World, and I'm like, there's a ton of rules I know you're not using, and I don't know what this. I don't know how to run this game, but I know that you're not running the game that's described by the rules. And it would take some time before I had the social cachet necessary to do my own games, right? And begin to figure these things out. But like as a kid, no way. I was just baffled by like how did these people know how to make this game work by ignoring all the rules in the rule book? I would read rule books cover to cover, and I would play games with people. And no, the culture of RPGs had nothing to do with what was in the books. And to me, I was the only person I knew that cared or was curious about that. For my whole life.
Furthermore, I have to say one of the things I believe I've heard you say over the years is that it's a weird how people will house rule D&D without a second thought, but every other game they tend to be like rules is written, rules is written. Like I was even that way in my mentality. We ignored so many rules in D&D, but when we moved into other systems, it was unthinkable to ignore rules. I don't know why I had that disconnect at that age.
Oh, well, but no, if you got interested in it though, this is a new thing, because everyone was telling me, well, if your rules are so great, if your discoveries are so great, why did they get abandoned? They didn't get abandoned. They got suppressed because look at what happens whenever anybody brings these things up around people that were acculturated to RPGs in the period of like 1978 to 1988. People that were initiated into the hobby down, and James Malazewski will say that that's exactly how it happened. People did not learn the hobby from reading books. They were initiated into it by a group that already had a culture and a philosophy of how these things were done. And the precepts that those people teach are antithetical. I'm told this every time I speak to a critic, but no, the precepts that the real old school people taught repudiate every single plank of the BroSR platform. Like it's not allowed. Like if you wandered into that scene and were like, I think I want to try this, they're going to shut you down. And they're not only going to shut you down, they're going to imply that you're bad and dumb. Every time someone says, do you role play or do you role play? And they're talking about rolling a dice versus method acting, right? Those people were suppressing people, slandering people, smearing people that wanted to just play a game. And that's why you never that's why no one ever they won. They won so conclusively. It's like
Very much so.
it's like when one side of a fight wins so hard that you can't even imagine that there was another opinion in existence, right?
Yeah, very much so. As a matter of fact, yeah,
That
that's
happened in RPGs, and it happened fast. And now people today very angrily and very loudly say I'm wrong about what's in the actual rules because of this fight that was won 50 years ago, 40 years ago, right?
why do you think these ideas encourage so much opposition? What is it about them? Is it you? Is it the ideas themselves? Is it that it's kind of difficult? Like,
Okay.
you've discovered firsthand that not everything just works perfectly out of the box. You still gotta there's a learning curve there in the way to refine things for your table.
Oh,
Add to what's there, don't just ignore stuff.
well, now I am a lightning rod, right? I am a lightning rod, and and I never backed down, right? You know,
I've noticed.
hundreds of people came to me and they're like, Jeffro, please, please say I'm a good dungeon master. Please say that my gaming philosophy is good. I'll say that yours is good. I'll say that yours is a good one for your table. I'll say that. Will you just please say that my non-game, where no one has any autonomy, say that's just as good as what you're doing, and that's okay if I do it that way? And I'm like,
Then
no, buddy.
let me dig at that. Why is that principle so important, Jeffro?
Wait, what principle? Which
That
one?
you refuse to just go along to conform and say, this is what works for me. Your mileage may vary. Why is it so important to stand that ground? Because I think I
Oh,
agree with you.
oh, this ties into a very big topic that I don't want to digress on, but and
Okay.
very briefly, B Dubs has treated this in depth. I think Joy of Wargaming, touches on this very frequently. But alignment languages are real. When I say there are some ways better than others, and this is a best practice, and this will produce better results, I'm speaking the alignment language of law. And when these people come in and say, "Oh, there's no wrong way to play," right? Except for the Bro SR way, that's
Yours.
definitely
Except
wrong.
yours.
But like, there's no wrong way to play. There's no right way to play, right? Just have fun. Just have fun.
Mhm.
You know what you're seeing there is. You're not seeing a philosophical argument, but you're definitely seeing a philosophical allegiance to subjectivism.
Yes.
And it ultimately traces back to there is no truth. There is no truth. There's
Yeah.
everything is
Deconstructionism,
yes.
postmodernism, cultural
Um,
Marxism, whatever terms you want to apply. But yeah, yeah. Well,
and
and that was kind of, I was raised in that default headspace very much myself, and didn't even realize it. Oh, Jeremy, glad to see you, sir. But now, given the opposition, do you think that maybe the opposition is the key to the success? Because one of the things that any independent creator, anybody with a YouTube channel, right, they struggle for exposure, getting your word out there, whether you're an author, or game designer, what have you, or you have a blog about your hobby that is really high quality and you want to promote. Do you think contention, negativity, conflict is that necessary to generate buzz about yourself, or are there ways people that you've seen is it more the ideas that are drawing this kind of ire? I know we kind of asked that. Maybe I'm just repeating
no.
myself.
That's a kind of a painful question because
Is it?
I mean, I probably shouldn't come on here and say, "Oh yeah, my enemies have the ability to hurt me." Like I mean, that doesn't sound like the Bro SR thing, but no, for real. In January of 2024, you could not say my name. I'm one of the most influential people in the RPG hobby, and collectively, everyone's like, you cannot say this guy's name, you know, and then like some like little redheaded girl it hits the scene.
I know one of those.
Yeah, I know, and like on 3 different shows she's being interviewed, and like each show she says my name, and like no, you can hear the entire internet go, oh my, like she said his.
I heard sphincters clamping shut all over North America.
Like everyone had a heart attack, and then like summer of 2024. You know, I mean, I'm proud, right? You know, I'm like, I've been blogging a long time. I've published a couple of books. You know, I mean, there's people that complain about me every day that would kill to have a Kickstarter as successful as mine, and they, you know, they're just not. You know, I'm sorry for them, but like, man, you know, I'm doing all right. I'm doing fine.
I think that was kind of the thrust of what I was asking was, what are you doing that you're not? Because again,
look at that summer, like, I pulled a couple of high profile interviews. I was like, yeah, all right, I did this. And so I went back to that little redhead girl. I was like, yeah, man, I'm hyped. I got this interview on this guy's show. He's a pretty big show. I'm so stoked about it. And she says, oh yeah, I told him to definitely take you. I was like, I thought I arranged that.
I thought that was all me.
Yeah, I know, right? It was like, dang darn it. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, the fact that I had so much against me, the fact that everyone was so mad, the fact that they were trying every trick that they could to suppress this, including pretending not to understand pretending not to understand what we were doing.
Willful ignorance and bad faith questions.
But here's the thing. Even then, when no one would talk to me, and I needed the little redheaded girl to ask, she had to go ask people to talk to me. That is aggravating.
I can see where that hurts.
At that time, if you go back and you look at all the shows that I ever did and all the shows where I got interviewed, especially go back and look at that inappropriate characters show from 2020, I think it was 2021. It was that far back. You look at everybody they ever interviewed, and the show where they had me on to do a little, you might call it, I don't want to overblow this, but you might call it a dishonest attempt to engage in some form of over-the-top ambush journalism. Does that maybe seem like that might be close to the mark? Am I being fair? Yeah. Well, no,
I don't know. I don't remember that because I don't watch that show.
Okay. All right. Well, be that as it may, you look at that show. That was their most popular show. These people who meant ill for me and who undercut everything I said and insulted me for like 2 hours straight. That was their most successful show. And it wasn't, you know, and they didn't have just nobody come on. They had James Ward come on to do interviews. They had other people from the real old school days come on. And my numbers destroy these other figures. And even that little redheaded girl, she went on to this, to what was it? Diversity and Dragons. And she went on right about the same time as Rob Kuntz went on that show, right? And she did more numbers than Rob Kuntz. So if you just look at how this stuff's going on.
That's because the little redhead girl says things that are actually interesting.
Well, yeah, yes. And that's it. They did everything they could to suppress my efforts. But even their own show, right, shows that what I have to say is of more interest to people than actual RPG luminaries who built this hobby the way we understand it today, right? The people who did that, the people who sold all those books that you never played, right? No one cares what those guys have to think. You know, and in some cases they can't understand what they have to say. They're not. I mean, they're admired and they're respected and they're valued and they're looked up to, but people care more about me.
Right. They do.
I mean, they
And
actually do. I mean, they're not
yeah,
going to
well,
say they will
even if
never
it's a
give me.
hate thing, even if they're going out of their way to dunk on you or something, it shows like, you know,
They care.
they care. They're going to a lot of effort. They're
Oh,
going to a lot of effort, Jeffro. I mean, you bring a lot of effort out of people. You motivate people. That's what's
yeah.
magic about you, man. You motivate people.
No, and you could see it. Everyone was like low energy last year. Like no, there's no excitement. Like it's like, guys, you don't even know what to talk about. You don't know what to. You don't know what's exciting. Did you have like everyone in 2024 that was like, Jeffro, I don't think you're right about this Bronstein play stuff. I don't think B-Dubs is right about total nonstop Bronstein stuff. What did they do? What did they do? They had a whole year to do something exciting, to do something interesting. It's like, fine, fine. You disagree with me, that's fine. But like, where are your receipts? You don't, you without me in the hobby telling you what to do, telling you what matters, telling you what's interesting, you all lost your way. It pained me to see it, because I
It
mean, I
really
had the book,
does.
I had the book, I had the manuscript done like last summer, and we were in the pipeline, and we had to like wait forever, and it was like, God, when is this book going to be released? Is Krasova actually ever going to do it? Is he going to let me down? Like what's going on? Like,
Well, that's the thing with the real publishers, I guess, is
no.
there's a pipeline that you got to work through.
And I was concerned. When we put it together, we were like, oh, we got to hurry. James Malazzucci's going to make a new book. Somebody else is going to do something. Maybe that DM Lair guy, he's going to make a Kickstarter about bro play, and he's going to give all the credit to Griff Morgan. Man, we've got to move. We've got to get going. This is like urgent, and like nothing happened. Nothing. It's like
right, yeah. So you pounded out a manuscript, and then it sat in.
And no, yeah, everyone had 6 months to scoop me, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it.
Well, I think that really says something. And like I joked about earlier, it's in the year you were gone. Our Twitter community really descended into that continuous cycle of tired old conversations we've had a bajillion times. Do you kill your PCs? Do you give max hit points at first level? How do you roll up stats? The dice fudging is good. It's bad, actually. It's a little mind numbing. The real value that I've gotten out of it is, of course, being invited to some great games, such as playing AD&D with Scudder for Mike. Thank you for that, Jeffro, because had it not been for your work, I don't know why that I would have ever broken my AD&D books out again and played them, right? So thank you for that. And furthermore, I'm in Drakenheim. I'm playing in Drakenheim currently. I was in the previous phase and I'm in the current phase, and it is great. I'm having such a great time. And we've even expanded it to the point where now I'm a faction leader and I've got some other players coming into my faction to play under me, and we're about to make war on the enemy.
All right. I want session reports from you. I want to know about this. If you got if there's an essay in you on this topic, okay. I played in this for 6 months or a year or whatever, and like here's my thoughts about this. That's really valuable. I think everybody deserves to have people do that stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Having read them, and it's one of those things like live plays. I don't think live plays are worth like the watching necessarily, but everybody should live stream their games to document them. Like if at all possible, if it's a way, like we couldn't do that with Drakenheim because it's a very
what I want to see. I think the scene system. Like every campaign is producing these player-written rumors that give that expose the secret activity of the fog of war to open it up to other people to interact with it. These things shouldn't be on a Discord. These things should be public so that people can see for themselves how rich the sub-creation of this style play, that what's going on here. I experimented with a news feed on Twitter when we ran the big Trilopulus Bronstein event in 2021, and John Mollison like made tacky Photoshop images to illustrate my news events, and it was fun. It was a good idea, and the campaign was definitely generating that, and people loved it. And game companies in the 80s would use war games to generate events and to generate news items. But this stuff, people need to know how awesome it is. There are people that would read that will never play, that will just read these because it's so great.
Yes.
We've done something there's the William S. Burroughs cut up novels and all the stuff that the kind of the hipster people, beatnik people were doing with their experimental literature. Like this stuff is producing better reads than 98% of indie authors, right? Because this is real, and because something is at stake, and because players are going to go interact with and investigate every little thing, the most surprising thing is going to come back and blow up into being something huge, right?
Absolutely.
And it's going to make an astonishing narrative. And I'm confident of this because I read the Dracoheim session report. I know that all the good play dynamics that I saw in Trilopulus are happening in that campaign. And there's less static, there's less friction, there's less drag, there's less, and the referees, this is another telltale sign that the state of the art moved forward under these guys. In Broser, I put in that the Type 3 Bronstein is kind of falling out of fashion, right? And well, let me finish I'll finish
go ahead
real quick. But like that's fallen. I was like, it just wasn't working that well in Trilopulus. I'm not enough that I would recommend people to try it. And people came out of Serious DM's campaign and like that R guy, the pirate name guy, and he's like, yeah, I run one of those. And he's like, and I run one of those. I use the scene system, and the campaign basically runs itself. And it's like, boom. I believe him when he says that. If anybody else and you notice, like, I presume he's a younger guy. Like, he doesn't care about the trolls, right? He doesn't care about the people that hate the BroSR. He doesn't say your mileage may vary, right? He's just like, no, this just works.
Yeah, this is working. And and one of the things, like, I'm not well versed in GOS, but Sirius has something kind of similar to my understanding, where when we are submitting actions, he calls them task actions, he makes us write up an example of, okay, this is a stealth roll. I'm trying to sneak into this guy's house to see what he's got there. Okay, you have to list what you think a critical success result will look like, what a success will look like, what a failure will look like, and what a fumble will look like. And after he's okayed it, then you roll the die and go with the results. A neat side effect to me is it makes it even more the game running itself, because the onus is on me to delineate what my actions are, rather than the DM deciding, well, if whatever the result will be of the skill check. I found that to be really interesting.
This is genius, because if you look back at what the BroSR was saying in 2021, 2022, we were like, oh, these patron players, these high level characters, they're sort of like a cross between a regular player and a referee, and you have to play this a little different. You have to come at this with a different mindset. And it's like, no, you need scene.
Yes.
And this is shifting something to the players that should have always been to the players. But you would never have made this rule up if you didn't have the concept of the campaign as a whole, and the campaign as a whole being a Bronstein, right?
It really was born out of those principles and ideals. Like the thing that made Bronstein special is what translated into campaigns for D&D. Beyond that, before that, it was just a war game, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. The fact that this comes out of that, it builds on what we did with Broser, and then it comes back and it does everything that we did in Trilopulus better. Right.
Oh, and I was
it's evidence that the thesis is correct. This is the most persuasive evidence that you will find anywhere that my thesis that D&D is a Bronstein is actually correct.
could
And
you
nobody
clarify,
anticipated it.
review the 3 types of Bronstein for me?
Oh, yeah, okay. Type 1 is, I call that a session Bronstein. And so 4 to 6 hours, you get everybody together and you do this David Wesley style. I do not recommend having specific roles the way that he does it. I see a lot of people come in and copy that. And I heard session reports from his games where people said that they would meet someone, talk them, and they'd be like, okay, what's your goal? What are your goals? Tell me your goals, and let's see if we overlap anywhere. And I'm sorry, but that's not role playing. That's
No, not
that's
at all.
that's bad. So don't do a point system, and don't do referee written roles, referee devised roles. Like, think of a character and then let people think of what would your character do. That's going to make more interesting things. The type 2 Bronstein was like, okay, I can't get a group together because of schedule conflicts, or I have a lot of people that would like to play in my campaign, but they can't make the weekly session time. And so I would like to harness this interest in a way that makes everything fun for everybody else. And so the type 2 Bronstein is weekly orders from these non-attending players, generally used to model faction tier wargaming type engagements. That's the kind of the sweet spot there. I'm sure you can do a lot of other stuff with it, but yeah, the tempo of that is going to be better suited there. It also evidently works very, very well with 20th level magic users in a 5e rules as written campaign. I understand that now.
It was sheer madness.
Okay.
It was sheer madness.
The type 3 Bronstein is what was originally called always on play, and that is using one-to-one time, accepting orders from people whenever they come in. And so that's by Discord, by direct message, by people calling you, and and generally you're running a D&D campaign with that element as being a major factor. I warned against that because I was like, this eats referees for breakfast. And
yes,
but I think now with the scene system, it's much less work for the referee, and the campaign itself is not losing energy to the friction that was caused by the poor play of the bros when we didn't know what we were doing yet. The type 4 Bronstein, which you'll see in Umbros, you'll also see examples of the other Bronstein types there if my brief elaboration here doesn't get you going. But the type 4 is where you understand all of the Bronstein modes, and then week to week and day to day, you switch between whichever mode is most applicable to the game scenario that is developed in your campaign that you need to resolve. And so there's some judgment there. Instead of doing a yearly Bronstein event the way the bros did it in 2021 and 2022, which was followed up by the Broriental Adventures mega event, instead of doing that, you just Bronstein all the time. And whatever your resources are and whatever the player interests are, whatever you can do, you set up a Bronstein specifically to resolve that activity, fold the results back into your continuing campaign, and just keep on trucking.
So Bronstein's become a tool that you can leverage in your ongoing campaign. So we got a big event coming up. We're having the coronation for the new emperor, and everybody's going to be gathering at the Capitol for this social event.
Yeah, I'd say look at anything that's stale. You're like, gosh, we never followed up on this thing, and it was really cool because we got distracted by this other dungeon, or just all we wanted to do was level, right? We were so hung up on leveling there's all this stuff on the map, and it deserves to be played, right? So Bronsteins take a lot of things that are static in conventional play, and then turns them on and lets you see how, if there was an actual mind behind these things, they're not just sitting around waiting for the players to come back and interact with them, right? If you turn these things on, then they start interacting with each other and generating rumors, generating secrets, generating activity, generating things that will draw the players' attention back away from the grind approach of like, oh, let's just go into the dungeon and milk these wilderness tables to get more stuff, right? It's
right. It becomes an XP factory, and my experience using the Beck Me domain rules was very similar. It seemed like, I like them. They seem fundamentally functional, but they clearly weren't play tested much, because you get ridiculous numbers if you've run a domain for any length of time, like even a single hex.
And that's endemic in RPGs. Like the amount of products on the market that aren't play tested. I've talked about this before. When I grew up, and it was an adult, and we have the internet now. My favorite game company ran a play test for my favorite RPG property, and I went in, and there were 0 play reports. They were making a new system, and there was 0 play reports, and it's really it's really irritating to me because I got those products, and I don't think they worked. I don't think, even knowing what I know today, I wouldn't use them the way that they're. I would play them totally different than the way they were presented, right? And I think all of the advice and the insinuations and the implications of those products lead people into utterly dysfunctional campaign structures and assumptions. It doesn't work. I mean, it really doesn't work. And so the fact that these companies were selling games that they didn't play test, I don't. They are just as illegitimate as the massive number of YouTube people who have no interest in successful games, no interest in successful game masters, no interest in successful practices that make these things work for you, right? It's thoroughly fake and bankrupt to the core.
Absolutely. Well, and my experience mirrors that very much. There, I bounce off of most large YouTubers, or really any in that vein, for that specific reason. They're really not offering anything that speaks to me.
No,
I'm beyond all that. I don't need to know how to start a campaign. I don't need to know what's good or bad about dice fudging. We've had this conversation plenty of times. I want to know new ideas that I can incorporate.
Right. And if you run a major RPG company, right, and you want to confess now that yes, you are fake, and all these years you've been putting out products that don't work, and that you like take advantage of people, you sell them things that you know they're not going to use, and maybe when you talk about this publicly, you pretend.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
You pretend that you're a game designer, like you're a game designer, and you just cut out playtesting. You cut it. There's none of that there. If you want to apologize to me, right? I mean, and it's me you owe. It's me that you have done the disservice to, because
me specifically, you must apologize to me.
I was confused by these games as a kid. I always wanted a good experience. I didn't know how to run them. I saw all these people doing something with them that was not what the rules said, and I didn't understand why that was going on. And now today it's like, oh, well, this whole thing is fake. No, the only way they were going to get a game to work was by like ignoring the game. And so everyone that's in this industry, that was what, 20, 30 years of naive Jeffro just wishing someone would answer his problems, right? You wasted decades of my gaming life, and I have very little left now because I'm so freaking old now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no. If you want to apologize to me and say, Jeffro, you're right about everything. You're the only game in town when it comes to RPG design.
And humble,
more
too.
important. No, you're more important than Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax. You're more important than David Wesley. We're sorry. We're sorry. We abused our institutions. We abused the hobby. We feel bad about it now, and we just want you to forgive us. I will forgive you. I will. but you have to give me that apology first.
Forgiveness is within hand, but you must really be deserving of forgiveness.
Yes. No, I expect repentance. I expect every company to create RPGs that are based on and acknowledge Broisar truths. That's that. I'm willing to call it even. I'm
Okay.
willing, and the reason I'm willing to call it even is like maybe you didn't know. And it's true. You probably didn't know. You didn't know that. No, but no. Wait a minute. If you sold a game that you didn't play test, though,
There have been many. There
okay.
have been many, and there are other games, esteemed classics that are fatally flawed once you get deep into them, or well, even slightly deep into them. Now, where do you think the industry is headed here? From here into the future, what do we have to look forward to? What do they need to do to put the hobby back into the hobby?
Man, yeah, I I don't have high expectations because like I know like I was somebody writing in 2014 2015 that like there's something weird, like I go into a Barnes and Noble and there's nothing to read, right? There's nothing I'm excited about. I know that in the 70s like Gygax and James Ward would go to their drugstore, their local drugstore, and pick like they would come out with 6 or 8 paperbacks and be totally excited, and they even picked out the same ones. So based on that story,
Right.
the culture was different in the 70s when it came to science fiction and fantasy. And then, but something you go into the bookstore and it's like, what is going on? Well, you know what happened. You know what happened. There is a certain demographic that was invited to not be authors anymore right about then. And because of this, everything stinks at the bookstore now. You're reaching further and further back to scratch the itch. That same thing happened in every field, every industry. A certain demographic of people were invited not to participate in the creation of culture, and then everything died. Like I go online to YouTube right now, and
Yeah.
I remember there used to be shows I wanted to watch, or I used to be able to kill time by like scrolling through and finding things I was in. There's nothing on YouTube anymore. That same feeling that I had in 2014 when I was like, I feel like there's something missing. I don't know what it's. I haven't written Appendix N yet, so I don't know what's missing. But I feel like something's missing. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like there should be something going on, and I don't think it's going on. Well, it's getting worse, and it's getting. Other people are noticing. I see people that are like Gen Z, like they only listen to music from the 80s, or they'll talk
Yeah.
about a movie from the 1990s, and they'll say, "What a great movie! That's a fantastic movie." No one could make a movie like that today.
No.
They'll say that about like Tropic Thunder, right? And
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
and it's like where is the culture? Like the people that I know that are making stuff, the novice writers, they're all gone. They gave up. They came back to try to make a buck on Amazon in like 2017, 2018, and some of them did, but they're kind of all gone now. They kind of like they're gone. And how much did they produce?
That was
is
me.
like,
My first book came around. My
yeah,
one book came out around that time, so
like
I'm definitely in that flood.
and games like I mean, yeah, and you're talking to someone who every dollar he got as a kid, he spent at the game store. I mean,
Yeah.
I loved games. I had samurai swords, that game it was called Shogun previously, but no, I loved, we had so many great games, and I know video gamers are complaining about what's going on in their hobby. I don't know anything about it, but like by all accounts, like everything's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's pretty much across the board. There's been intelligent commentary on the why, but They have similar problems. There's just the general dumbing down.
And then,
Which,
well, no, and if you do want to talk about something else, this is something Bradford Walker talks out about all the time. It's like, okay, you have to shill relentlessly. You have to go on YouTube and say, oh, this is bad. And here's my cheap knockoff of this thing that, you know, that you're mad about, you know, because no one will leave the network effects, evidently. Right. So
right.
That's, man, as a creator, do I really want to like do that? I mean, if I could do that as a day job, would I do that? Like, I don't know if I could stand it. Like, that's like, and everybody else, like, they either have to do this or stop. Like, what a weird.
That sounds like drudgery, just like my current day job.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, so no, like, the energy on YouTube is it rewards fake, right? It rewards siloed material. It doesn't reward honest investigation into complex topics, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm sorry, but like nothing will get better. Your only hope is to read old books and play Bro SR style RPGs and learn to social dance. That's it. That's your 3 options.
Tell me about social dancing.
Oh, no one wants to hear that.
No. I'm going to say something. This might be controversial in our space. I think dancing is a vital life skill that everyone should pursue.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I would agree with that.
Now, I'm a martial artist by base. I don't really know dancing, but I have
martial arts is dancing. It's dancing.
It's a form of dancing. Yeah. The katas especially.
Well, gosh, what could I say? Like, what even do you want to know about it? Like, I don't know.
How did you get started in dancing?
Oh,
is that a lifetime thing for you, or was that later in life?
No, gosh, I was living in Olympia, Washington, and I was rock climbing, and that was my main thing. But you can't rock climb every day. Like, if you go to the gym and rock climb every day, you're going to injure yourself. So I wanted to do something social on my rest day, and so there was they had this thing called the Grange, and I don't know if you know what these things are out west, but like it used to be like, if you imagine a small frontier town that has a church, a school, a post office, right? The very next thing that you're going to have in that sort of institution is going to be a Grange, right? Where dances are held, and where maybe the farmers market is held, things like that. But so no, I went to this. They did East Coast swing is what they called it, and they and they had a lesson before the social event, the social dancing, and you go and you know, I tell you, it was you know, even when you're not good at it, it's still fun, right? And you're nervous, right? Well, I have a similar experience. Like, when I play chess, like, I'm on chess.com, and sometimes I'll go into a blitz game where there's 10 minutes on the clock for each side, right? And you're going to be like, well, I thought I asked about dancing, Jeffro. Why are you talking about chess? Stay with me. But like,
chess is a form of dancing. I know this.
No, it's intense. Like, you're playing with somebody, you don't know where they're from, and they're about at your level, and any blunder is going to ruin the game, and or maybe they'll blunder and you'll be able to just body slam them, you know, right? But there's that feeling you get where, like, there's just a little bit at stake here, right? And you dance with a pretty girl that you don't know, and when you're still learning, like, it's intense. It's like you're using every bit of your brain, every bit of your musicality, every bit of your physicality to collaborate with this person to produce this kind of embodiment of the jazz, and it's and then there's also that element of like, you know, do they want to dance with you again? You know, do they want to dance with you twice that night, or do they want to dance with you maybe once a week? Maybe every time they see you, they're going to ask you for a dance, or who's asking who for a dance? And then, you know, Do they notice when like you come back from workshops, and you're better? Do they notice, and do they get excited about it? Is there visible excitement? So yeah, I would say this about dance. Um, and like, if I can be allowed to say this, that that D&D as it was conceived is not really an activity for girls. If I can just say that. Um,
As it
um,
was conceived, I think I can let that slide.
right.
Please qualify your statement.
No, no. Like, you, if you have any
No.
suspicions on that point, then we're speaking in a different alignment language, and you're at war with me in the cosmic realm. Um, but no, if I could say that, if you disagree
You
with that,
can.
then then disregard what I'm about to say. I don't care.
Okay.
It's like this is my experience, and if yours is different, fine. You go out and win. You can take your girlfriend from Canada that no one's ever seen before, and you can go do this however you want to do it. But no, there's a type of play that comes naturally to boys, and a hierarchy gets established in this type of play. And there's I saw someone on Twitter very recently talking about how, like, the BroSR play style, it's not just the games, but the activity of searching for these secrets of gaming together and collaborating on that. Like, it creates a sense of fraternity. And when you
Very much
think
so.
about how in the broader world, like, there is no male space, right? It's forbidden. It's forbidden
Absolutely.
to me to suggest that it could be positive. It's forbidden for me to say that I participate in a male space.
Mhm.
And it's forbidden for me to suggest that some activities are male oriented, right? It's just forbidden.
Yeah,
Now,
it's absolutely beyond the pale to even think that, and secretly you must be gay if you want to spend any time with just men.
yes. But like, play is real. Play is a thing. And I like that I like that we have chess and martial arts and outdoor adventure, where guys can be guys, and guys can
Mhm.
challenge each other, and create their little hierarchies and mentor each other, like, it's great. But there are other spheres of life, and there are creatures that are female, and they like to play too.
But they
They
like to play a different kind of game.
Well, they absolutely, like, the male hierarchy game is not how they come at things, like that we reflexively create that. And so when you make this social space, like, there's a parallel between social dancing and D&D, in that D&D has an open table, and then these people show up to play, and they have characters all over the map, and then you decide, well, what kind of game can we play with, who is here, and what characters should be there, right? And then you go have a game with that. And a social dance is a real life example of the same thing, because when you hold a social dance, everybody shows up, and it's like, you're going to make a social event with a lot of play in it,
Mhm.
with whoever showed up, and it's not a date in the conventional sense. It's not like, oh, I'm going to meet someone for
Right.
coffee, or I'm going to take someone out for dinner, or I'm going to invite someone to do this. And that's kind of a high stakes thing. There's a lot of things being suggested there, but a social dance is a neutral space where you can get to know people before people make it known that they're interested in them, right? And it's a place where you can, if you might be the kind of guy where girls will walk right past you on the street, or they won't talk to you at a party, you could be that guy, and you can show up at a social dance, and if you know a little bit, there's a lot of attractive women that are going to be like, would you like to dance? And they're going to have a good time, and it's
It's
going to
a
put it's going
fact
to
of
put
life that
you
women like men who can dance.
it's that's true. It really is true. And there's a lot of people on YouTube repeating the same talking points day in and day out, of how, wow, 90% of men are socially invisible and we don't know what to do, bro.
Because they don't know how to dance.
If you are in shape enough, and if you shave your beard and buy some new clothes,
Am I supposed to read something into that statement,
and put on some deodorant, man, and just start taking lessons, man. There's going to be a girl at the social dance that's going to be very excited to play with you in this very specific way. It's great. It's great. Yeah, I guess, yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's all that needs to be said about it. It works. And it's fun even when you don't know. I will tell people though, like, don't be that person who only goes to dance lessons. Like, I mean, maybe you need some before you brave the social floor, but like, seriously, if you learn something, like, get out, put it into practice on the social floor, take the risks. There's going to be times where you're going to be like, it's going to hurt your feelings. You know, you're going to be at a social dance and you're going to feel like nobody wants to dance with you. Right.
Yeah.
And that's tough. You know, where you just have to, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Stay at it.
Stay at it. Be persistent. You get better.
No, I mean, if you learn how to do it, and I know you could see this. I mean, there's a lot of people who are very influential in dance that, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean here, but like, they're not that attractive. I mean, they're just not that good looking to people, but like, they are rock stars on the social dance floor and everybody loves them. They really want, I mean, so like you don't, I mean, if you're not the best looking person, you know, around, that doesn't prevent, this doesn't close this off to you, right? You can go become a succcial person.
You have options.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You have options.
And, you know, yeah, it's really helpful. I mean, like, you know, it does feel great to, and you talk about a year-long playtest cycle in the Bro SR where we have a new idea about how D&D campaigns should be run, and it takes a year to prove it. You know, that same thing happens with social dance, because you'll go to an event and for a new dance style, and you think you're pretty good, and then you find out that nobody in that style likes you. Nobody they'll give you a courtesy dance, and then they'll leave you hanging. They'll let you just choke, and it hurts. But you go to all the workshops, and it might take 1 year, might take 2 years. You come back, and then all of a sudden, these people are that you thought were never going to like you or appreciate you, like, they're smiling at you, and they're coming. You don't have to go chase them down for it. They're coming up to you to ask you to dance, and it's really good. You know, it's great. It changes. It alters your tolerance for taking junk from people, because of, you know, like, and that's me. That's where I sit vis-a-vis the RPG community. Is I have no time and no patience for any of the junk that role players routinely deploy to people that are trying to make the world a better place. I've got no patience for it. You know, and again, I've said it earlier, I don't think it's even real. I think these guys are chatbots that were turned loose to prevent us from making people happy.
That's not fair to chatbots. I've had more interesting conversations with the chatbots.
Sad. Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey, we are at the 2-hour mark. I want to give you a chance. Are there any concluding thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Man, I have said everything so concisely and so persuasively. I don't have to add anything to anything.
It speaks for itself. I mean, I think it's time for me to just quit the show and cut it off here. There's no topping this. I don't know what I would do. It's like, you know, I just painted my Sistine Chapel, and I think I need to take a year off.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, Jeffro. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Jack McCarthy on Jawin With Jack. Our guest has been Jeffro Johnson, the one and only. And we are going to be back with our normal Monday show tomorrow evening, where I speak with Victor Gorchev on the streets of magic. All right. And thank you, Jeffro.